Welcome back, Nuclear News family. You know exactly what time it is. We're staying on top of the fundamentals of the nuclear energy renaissance taking place before our very eyes. So first, let's talk about the price action of the miners. Brought uranium miners ETF up 39.85% year to date. The S&P 500 languishing only up 10.6%. So again, massive divergence of the highest quality assets, strong fundamentals from the rest of the market. Very exciting to be an early stage investor in this space, especially as these assets take dips. Now, obviously, if we're investing in commodities, we have to understand the supply and demand situations. So let's talk about the demand situation. This comes from Centrus Energy. Demand could become very large. The Nuclear Energy Institute surveyed U.S. advanced reactor developers in 2020 to estimate potential HALEU demand through 2035. The estimate of these reactors suggests this chart. Massive, massive, massive boom, right? So what you can see is we're in 2023, small pickup from the previous year. But what happens in 2024? What happens in 2025? The pickup goes exponential. And so demand expected to pick up, good to be at the start of that curve, which is where we are currently. So let's just take a look at what's going on today. Kazatomprom has delivered over 30 tons of low enriched uranium to China to fuel just one of China's hungry nuclear power plants, right? They're building lots of nuclear power plants. We've covered how China is just investing deeply into these. So that's 30 tons, boom, taken off the market over to one plant in China. And so this comes from Sprott Wealth Management, uranium. It takes a median time of 89 months to build a nuclear reactor worldwide, but only between 3 to 5 years in China, which happens to be where 1/3 of nuclear units currently under construction are located. Perhaps that explains the rise in long-term utility contracting we've seen over the last couple years. And so you see that spike in 2023, right? We're still in the early stages of the mass demand of this resource. This table shows where the current supplies are, right? So we have Kazakhstan, Niger, Russia, major issues in all three of those countries. Canada obviously can't pick up the load itself, but this is what has been going on. 97% of Europe's natural uranium comes from overseas, but Russia deliveries are starting to fall. So these are the actual numbers. Kazakhstan, Niger, and Canada were the top three countries delivering natural uranium, providing 74% of the total. Kazakhstan's share was 27%, Niger 25%, and Canada 22%. Russia followed with 17%, which included natural uranium contained in enriched uranium products. Deliveries of uranium from Australia and Russia dropped by about 82% and 16% compared to 2021. The fall in deliveries was compensated by a strong increase in deliveries, mainly from Kazakhstan and Canada, which rose by about 14% and 50%. So just keeping you posted on the geographical mix of what is going on. Again, Canada not quite ready to take up all the slack of these other massive countries, which are having declines in production. And so this speaks further to the demand of uranium. This comes from Centrus Energy as well. World nuclear generation. So current policies in blue. This speaks to the massive growth, right? So we're saying terawatt hours going from like 2,500 up to 3,500. That's current policies. Now, what about the net zero emissions by 2050? This is the new policies going from 2,500 to over 5,000, right? This is brand new. Again, conservative, because every week we see news that sends this chart higher over time. And so this has to do with the regulation of the space, right? So currently we have the blue line, but then expect further growth because of new policies to get net zero emissions. So just this week, we have advancement there. Germany caves into French demands over EU electricity market reform. Berlin has lifted its objections to state subsidies for nuclear power. Under the new agreement, France could use government support to finance its largely state-owned nuclear plants. Brand new agreements coming out of Europe. European Council agrees stance on electricity market reform. Following months of negotiations, the European Council has reached an agreement on a proposal to amend the EU's electricity market design, agreeing to include existing nuclear plants in the reform. The agreement could result in France dropping a scheme forcing state-controlled utility EDF to sell a portion of its nuclear production to competitors below market level prices. The European Council said the reform aims to make electricity prices less dependent on volatile fossil fuel prices, shield consumers from price spikes, accelerate the deployment of renewable energies, and improve consumer protection. So they're trying to accelerate the deployment of nuclear power as well, right? So just rolling out the red carpet for nuclear reactors globally, nuclear energy globally. Canadian provinces announced collaborative coal phase out plans. The government of Canada has announced nearly 20 million Canadian dollars in federal funding to support the provinces of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick to help enable a phase out of coal-fired electricity generation. The funding includes $7 million to support pre-development work for a small modular reactor in New Brunswick, right? So this is the future. Small modular reactors will power the world. And look at Cameco getting set up to just dominate the future of this space. Cameco and Brookfield Renewable formed strategic partnership to acquire Westinghouse Electric Company. Westinghouse is truly massive. Westinghouse services about half the nuclear power generation sector and is the original equipment manufacturer to more than half the global nuclear reactor fleet. The company has industry-leading intellectual property and a specialized workforce, roughly 9,000 employees capable of operating in highly regulated markets around the world. So Cameco doesn't want to just own the fuel. They want to own the infrastructure. Absolutely massive play by Cameco. Then we have Sweden going big into this space, right? We just covered how they changed their laws to roll out more and more production of nuclear power plants in Sweden. Well, again, as early stage investors, we're staying on top of these early stage developments for Sweden to become a powerhouse of nuclear energy generation. Sweden and the UK agreed to enhance cooperation in nuclear. A strategic partnership has been signed between the UK and Sweden aimed at reinvigorating the deepened cooperation across the bilateral relationship, including on security and defense, innovation, science, energy, climate, people to people, and trade and investment. It includes cooperation on nuclear reactor technologies, including small modular reactor technologies and diversifying nuclear fuel supplies. Good for the UK, which did their Brexit deal and making deals with other countries in Europe. Sweden Deputy Prime Minister traveled to Washington, D.C. last week to go nuclear power plant shopping, right? So just getting started, rolling out massive amount of SMRs globally. The construction and operation of 4 SMRs at our Darlington site will have a big impact on the Canadian economy. Our SMR fleet will add $13.7 billion to Ontario's GDP and 2,000 jobs. This is the narrative, right? The green revolution. Nuclear companies sign up for space technology missions. This is obviously the big picture, right? We're talking about domination of nuclear power on Earth. Get ready for domination of nuclear power in the galaxy, right? Space travel. Lots of money going into the space. With nuclear technology set to underpin new developments in space travel, NASA has awarded Ultra-Safe Nuclear Corporation a contract to manufacture and test fuel and develop the design of a nuclear thermal propulsion engine for near-term missions. Separately, Space Nuclear Power Corporation has partnered with Lockheed Martin Corporation and BWX Technologies for the U.S. Space Force/Air Force's Jetson nuclear electric propulsion demonstration project. Framatome has announced the creation of a new brand, Framatome Space. So just getting started, staying on top of this market. Very exciting when you understand how early we are.